Hi, this is Anthony Parent of IRS Medic. For 20 years, I've been a tax attorney fighting for truth, justice, in the American way. And one of the things I've encountered is that our US tax system is far more abusive than people realize. No matter who you are at some point in your life, the IRS will be coming for you. And when it does, it can be utterly destructive. There's no people on the planet who would actually vote for the IRS, but rather it's been foisted upon us all the while Congress telling us what we want. So really, I was listening with great attention to Donald Trump's interview on Joe Rogan as he's casually mentioning some changes he wants to make to the U.S. tax code. And in fact, I think if we look at his statements, I think we can see that he actually wants to get rid of the IRS. And also that wants to get rid of the Federal Reserve, which is actually required because they work in conjunction since 1913. So it's a fascinating interview. We're going to pick it up where he starts talking about taxes on tips here.
She changed 15 policies. In fact, I'm going to send her a MAGA cap.
She stole your idea about no tax for tips.
I think it's just sort of movement. It's just movement because, okay, let's remove tax on tips. Well, what's next after that? Why shouldn't we tax tips? And I don't think we should. But if we're not taxing tips because people are working hard for it, and then again, Donald Trump is looking to end tax on Social Security along with double taxation for Americans overseas, an effort that I've been a part of. A small group of people, 10 of us, have been moving along and making significant progress. So this is incredible.
For 2 months, but you know what? All of a sudden,
it caught fire.
And she just put it into a little speech.
Yeah,
I think we still have that issue. I think that issue is a good one for us. We're trying to get cars built in the United States. Detroit has been really tough. It's been a disaster. They have a huge factory, a huge car auto plant being built by China in Mexico, make cars, sell them in the United States, put everybody out of business. Right, here we go again. I said, if that plant is there when I'm president, I will put 100 or 200% tariffs on every car. They'll be unsaleable in the United States. And they just announced they're not going to build the plant because they think I'm going to win. Think of it. They're not going to build the plant. This was the biggest plant in the world.
Understand what Trump is doing. He's selling the idea of using tariffs. Now, what I would say is you got to be careful about tariffs because that was the cause of the Civil War, because the tariffs impacted the South much worse than the North. And that's what led to the actual secession because it was ruinous taxation. So you want to be careful on tariffs. And if you're going to impose tariffs, you want to make sure you're applying them equally, even high tariffs as such as these. So as long as they're applied equally and they're felt by everybody in the United States equally, not really big of a problem. But when only certain people will pay tariffs, that's when it gets dangerous and you want to watch out for that. But that doesn't sound like
more than all of Michigan makes. That's how big. This is what we're getting
selling the idea of tariffs.
And I said, if that plan goes up, I want them to understand if I win, I'm going to tax those cars at the rate of 100 or 200% apiece so that you won't be able to sell them in the United States. To me, the most beautiful word, and I've said this for the last couple of weeks, in the dictionary today, and is the word tariff.
He's going out. This is the thing, our country operated 100% on tariffs and also excise taxes on alcohol before 1913. Everything was funded, with an exception, of course, for a few years during the Civil War when President Abraham Lincoln, on his own, decided to impose an income tax on worldwide income. Other than that, this country has not had an income tax, and the size of the federal government was limited. But as you grew the income tax, so did the federal government has grown so much since 1913 beyond, along with the Federal Reserve devaluing our money since 1913.
This country can become rich with the proper use of tariffs.
No, it's not talking about getting rid of the IRS yet.
Of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs.
Well, okay.
Were we serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley, he was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariff. And then around in the early 1900s, they switched over stupidly to, frankly, an income tax. And you know why? Because countries were putting a lot of pressure on America. We don't want to pay tariffs. Please don't. Believe me, they control our politicians. If you look at
you get it? What he's saying here. This is huge. This is huge what Trump is saying. He is saying that the income tax was lobbied for by foreign interests, and I'll let you figure out who those could be. But the income tax was not lobbied for by Americans, but rather people external to the United States. This is an incredible admission by Trump. This is utterly incredible that he is saying that there is no political foundation. There's no reason why the American people would want the income tax, but people overseas certainly would. And that is, it appears, who he's claiming that Congress responded to, not the American people.
Think of this problem. We were so rich, we had so much money, we didn't know what to do. So they set up a blue ribbon commission on tariffs. And the sole purpose is what to do with all the money we had. We were so rich because we were taxing other people for coming in and taking our jobs.
So there it is. I mean, this is what's incredible about this, okay? Donald Trump only speaks a little and casually. He casually mentions these things. And really, in order to get rid of the IRS, we do have to get rid of two different things. We have to get rid of the IRS and also the Federal Reserve, but also there needs to be some alternative funding source for the federal government that would be viable. That's something that you actually could do. And so what Trump is saying, yeah, let's just go back to tariffs, because number one, it's a protectionist measure, and I'll let you decide whether that's a good thing or not. But more importantly, the tariffs would reflect more the will of the American people than the people overseas who want Americans. And basically what happens is Americans pay their tariffs, but worse than that. And I think really this is the worst part about the IRS, is that it's sprawling a massive amount of growth. And even even the Solicitor General of the United States of America has said, we don't even need a taxable event to tax you. We don't even need to tax you. We could tax anything you want. So how far away the income tax has gotten even away from income? Because now it taxes non-income events. It's out of control. And again, this is one of the points I would make again and again, is that if we have a U.S. tax code that is not understandable by the vast majority of people, the U.S. tax code is written, the instructions just to the simple 1040 form are written to the 11th grade level. Well, the average reading comprehension of the average American adult is that of the 6th grade level. Now, whether that is their fault or not, that is the truth. And so how could it be that people would have a 6th grade the average American has a 6th grade reading level, but would demand to have a tax system that they couldn't understand, and that also on top of that, if they don't understand it, that they're still on the hook and that there's ruinous penalties all over the place? Who would ever vote for that? And actually the answer, and Trump is giving it. This is what's incredible. He is giving the answer. Yeah, the people who want it are all the people who don't, all the people who want a US income tax aren't Americans. What a brilliant rhetorical device. And now if we also look at the rhetoric around from J.D. Vance and also other comments Trump has made, not a fan of the Federal Reserve. So he is looking to get rid of both things that came in with weeks of each other in 1913. And this is what I would say to people. I actually think he's serious. And because the reason why I would say that is because I know he's serious about ending double taxation for Americans overseas. I've been a part of the group. And this was not a decision that he just came to pander votes. That wasn't it at all, because it was too late to kind of get those votes anyway. But rather, we know from our own experience that he is taking that quest to end double taxation incredibly serious. And now just moving the logical extension of that, because who would, what American would want to vote to be taxed overseas when they're not anything to do with America? No one ever would. So if we extend that logic to say what really reflects the will of the American people, there's no way the American people want the IRS. And Donald Trump is exactly right here and is proposing something incredible. And what I would say is this, the tax industry itself doesn't seem to be paying attention to anything Donald Trump is saying. They don't think he's serious. Maybe they don't think he's going to win. So this could really surprise everyone. I mean, I'm really serious about this, that most the tax industry is just like not even letting this faze them. And I don't think they understand what could be coming, that their complete world could go away. Everything they know, everything that makes them valuable can no longer be with them. Incredible short little casual conversation by Donald Trump that really shows something remarkable. And I'm looking to see what happens here. And I'm hoping to see some of these proposals happen. And then finally, an end to the IRS. It's actually in sight. This is Anthony Parent of IRS Medic. I want to thank you all for watching, and be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. I'm going to be covering a lot more of this as it develops. I mean, it's shocking news all the time. Be sure to join us in the future. Thanks again.